So our prognosis of what's coming in the future is a good one. People get confused when they think that there's going to be a great change, and they'll think, well, how's it going to happen? All these bad things are happening. It's because enough are going to lift in their consciousness. Humans' consciousness is starting to expand with the earth consciousness also expanding. So the vibration of the earth is picking up, and humans. And so as the humans are living on the earth, the stimulation from her energy centers, because she has them too, is stimulating their energy centers. And it's going to start to kick out all the lower tone emotions that are held, allowing more light into the humans. So some of this is going to happen very naturally. It's going to be a very natural unfolding that's going to occur. So you're going to see a lot more Kundalini awakenings. You're going to see a lot more people channeling. You're going to see a lot more telepathy on your plane, people communicating without saying a word. These are the kind of things that are going to become very natural on your plane in the upcoming years.
Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anja Richter and today I have the great pleasure to welcome you to an exciting interview with Robin Jelinek. Robin is known as a channeler of a group named ATHENA in Truth, and lately she seems to be the most wanted guest on all the well-known podcasts in the internet. So it is actually fascinating how our interview came about. You see, I didn't contact Robin because I didn't even know her at the time. It was the other way around. Robin contacted me. Somehow I popped up for her and she just followed her guidance, not caring about how many subscribers and followers and what the statistics are saying or the analytics or some algorithms or whatever. She just followed her guidance, offering me an interview on my small channel. And I love so much that it tells us and shows us so clearly to throw all our old beliefs of how things are supposed to work just right out of the freaking window and follow and create on our highest level of vibration, and then the things that match this vibration will come to you, right? Because you are sending it out. And the outcome is an absolutely amazing, inspiring interview on so many topics and on so many levels with Robin. And of course, I'm having a very long conversation with the group, with ATHENA in Truth. And the topics are covering contents such as more insights about ATHENA in Truth, of course, a detailed walk through the process of Kundalini awakening, the fascinating topic of telepathy as one of the things that will increase now on Earth. The question if the dark night of the soul, the so-called dark night of the soul, is actually inevitable on our journey of awakening. Also, the question if remembering past lives is necessary for spiritual awakening. And of course, an absolutely beautiful prophecy on the new earth and what we can be looking forward to instead of fearing the change, and so much more. So I hope you find this interview as inspiring as I did. I'd love to read your comments on it. And now, with no further ado, let's dive just right in and enjoy the interview. I'm so honored and pleased to have you, Robin Jelinek, on my podcast today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm honored and pleased as well to be here. There are no mistakes, as we talked about right before we started. And I think that we're going to have a wonderful exchange today.
So, Robin, just a short introduction because my viewers might not be that familiar with you, although you're all over the internet right now. So I'd like to start this interview with the obvious question. How come You got to be a channeler.
Yes. Well, in my early 20s, from the time that I had my children very young, I think I had my first son at 21, got married at the age of 19 to my high school, junior high uh, boyfriend, still together almost 50 years since we've known each other. At
Wow.
the age of 13, I remember him walking into our classroom. There was a little bit of a change where there were too many kids in each classroom, so they did an adjustment. He came through the door, and I would almost say that that's my first knowingness that I remember what felt like a voice in my head said, "There's your husband, take a good look at him." And I was only 13. And in fact, when he sat down, I laughingly said to him, "Oh, I said, somebody told me that we're going to be married someday." And of course, at 13, when you're just meeting someone, you think that's a little crazy. But in fact, we were inseparable from that time on. We went all through, seventh and eighth grade, all through high school, started a business together, excuse me, a water well drilling business in northern Wisconsin, and had two children and a life together ever since then. I'm now at the age of 65. Over that period of 40 some odd years that we were married, I always had an interest in metaphysics. It's something that was just a passion. I really enjoyed reading everything that I could get my hands on in regard to it. Hundreds of books, and I would read them to him. Excuse me, having a little throat frog this morning. And I would read them to him, and he was not close to it, but of course was very busy in his life starting a business, and said, hang on to that for 20 years. When I have time, I'll listen to you. And so, we just talked about it off and on, but I would say primarily it was my focus, and I would do that while I was, raising my kids and working in our business. Then at about the age of 43, both my boys left for college. And that was really a grief period for me because I really loved being a mother. They were wonderful. I loved having them at home, and I felt like a whole when they left. And I really delved into my spiritual practice. And that's when I had the Kundalini awakening that I've talked about on a lot of other podcasts. And I'm sure people can look that up for that experience. But it came with all the bells and whistles. And it was a profound confirming moment for me that really everything that I had ever read about really existed. I actually felt it in my body. I heard it. I no longer cared if people thought so much about me being crazy in the beliefs that I had, because once you have a firsthand experience like that, it's a confirmation, and in some way it's a blessing, because spiritual experiences give you a confirmation. And when you get that confirmation, it makes it very easy for you to believe and to perceive. And that just broadens your ability in the life that you're living to come into contact with yet more and more metaphysical type things. And so after that experience, I navigated that in a lot of different ways. I had a partial rising. A couple of years later, it came down through the top. There was some upheaval in my life, and just me inside, a lot of emotions that came with that. I would call it the dark night of the soul that you hear people refer to. And since then, I've learned that that's something we don't have to suffer through. That was something that came because I kept the energy of Kundalini energy. Its whole primary goal is to enlighten you to what you're holding that's separating you from what the universe is holding for you. So every time I saw something I didn't like in myself, I moved to judging, I moved to condemning. You're backsliding, you're thinking this, you're doing that, you're not good enough. And so I would go down that path of effort and self-correction, and policing of myself, which made me very miserable, because I soon realized that as a human, I wasn't capable of that type of perfection. So that went on for a couple of years. And then eventually, I started to realize that, I am here to enjoy my life, and I am good enough in however I have lived it. And I would say, like at around the age of 60, I was just doing a little bit of a sit time, and I still struggled a little bit with confidence. And I made that statement to myself, when are you going to when am I getting this confidence? I'm 60 years old. It should be coming, if it's coming at all. And that's when I first felt the Athena presence. There was a head going back, a breathing inside of my body that I knew I did not do. There was that same knowingness or voice that said, this is how it feels for a woman to be in her power. That reminded me of when I first met my husband. It was the same type of feeling. And there were a lot of symptomatic things that occurred prior to that, a lot of automatic mudras. If I would do any sit time, those are hand signals that move in perfect synchronicity over my body, things like that. Just a lot of eye leaking, excessive yawning, open mouth screaming without making any noise, but it felt like I was just releasing energy, like it was preparing me for something. And so once the connection was made the first time, then we took a little trip, and we actually met my son in Fort Lauderdale, and I was telling him about my experience. And as soon as we started talking about it, I could feel my body start involuntary moving, and he did saw it, and he said, well, it looks like something's in there. Let's have it come out and talk. That was the first time that they actually spoke to the family. And it was very difficult. There was a lot of heat in the body, a lot of sweating, a lot of pressure and pain in my voice box. It wasn't very comfortable at all. And of course, you're just shocked by it. You couldn't believe it. You had trouble believing what was actually going on. So I would say over the next period of the month or two, it was a little bit turbulent at my house. Like I just couldn't get the things done that I would normally do. I felt like they were talking all the time. My husband wanted to read his paper and stay sleeping at night. And finally, I, kind of blurted out, "This isn't working. Everything is just kind of in upheaval." And then they said, "Well, we are thought provoked. We thought you knew that. So stop thinking about us, and we'll stop talking." And then once I got that message, then I would just, kind of put it out of my mind. And then if I, of course, wanted to invite it by thinking about them, then they would start up again. So that's kind of how that went. After that 2 or 3 month period, my body quickly acclimated to that energy, and the sweating kind of went away. I can get a little hot, but it's not like it was. The pain in the voice box cleared up. The body got much smoother. The speech got better. And so that connection just kind of very gradually became better and better. Then I moved into very quickly, I would say within 5 or 6 months, into doing a lot of private sessions for friends and family, people that had a belief that wanted to experience what was going on. And I quickly found out that it was something that was very helpful, and then ended up developing a website, doing some courses, actually doing lots of channel sessions. I do Kundalini activations where I assist people in removing emotions that are held in their energy centers that are actually creating things in their experience that are not preferred. That's a big part of Kundalini activation, is actually preparing the vessel by getting rid of, in a kind and loving way. I hate to say getting rid of, but assisting in removing old perceptions and beliefs that are lodged in those energy centers that are creating unconsciously something that you don't really want in your experience. And I've had really good success with that as well. And I do those in groups now too, of 20 people at a time, or individually on Fridays. Those are on my website. So that's kind of the work that I ended up, and it's kind of interesting because I was so interested in the Kundalini energy and the chakras, and I had the firsthand experience with all of those, having a partial rising, having one come down through the top, having gone through the dark night of the soul. It's put me in a position where I can really help anybody that's struggling, that has that happen. There's a lot of people that have spontaneous awakenings, and they're very problematic for some people because they have a lot of negativity in their field, and that energy accelerates that negativity, and they find themselves in a lot of suffering and not really knowing how to navigate it. So that's a big part of the work that I do. So it's kind of funny how the whole thing came full circle, where I really needed every experience I've had. And some people are regretful that maybe they bring to themselves a spontaneous Kundalini rising, because if you focus on your energy centers enough and you intend enough, you will activate that energy, whether you are prepared for it or not. But I think that it comes the way that it's supposed to come, because I would have once thought that maybe mine came the wrong way because it was a partial rising and it created some upheaval. But now I'm using all of that data for the work that I do. So I really think that it does happen in perfection. So I'm not so concerned about how someone gets the rise, but I do also try to help them as much as possible prepare their body for it so that they can have a minimal amount of suffering when it does occur.
Mhm. Wow, that was a quick wrap up of I don't know how many years since you were 13 or
Pretty
something.
some, yeah.
But it actually it's so beautiful because it already shows that you were, of course, you were connected with your higher self, or however you want to call it, that telling you this is your man, right?
Yeah. Well, everyone is.
Yes.
Anyone that's feeling emotion is connected. They just maybe aren't believing in it enough. And for some reason, I always had really strong empathy. I could always feel the thoughts and feelings of other people. Was always very aware of that. So because of that attribute, I was very trusting in my own
Mm.
knowing and in my intuition. And it's that trust, it's that belief that actually increases that ability or that sense within you. And that's the thing that people struggle to get. They don't realize that they have all of these senses that can be activated within them, but they have to know they're there, and they have to trust enough in themselves, in the divinity that they are, to actually get the use of those senses.
Yeah. Would you say that the environment you grew up was actually facilitating this trust to your own intuition?
Well, I didn't actually have an ideal environment. I had a very a non-participating father who was quite angry, and I wouldn't say that I liked him very much. I had a really wonderful mother who I know was empathetic and sensitive, and she had no awareness of any type of metaphysics or anything. She was so busy raising six kids and ironing all our
Wow.
dresses. Back then, everybody had to wear a dress and it had to be ironed. And, my dad never changed a diaper or helped her at all. He was running a business and working, of course, but she did all of the childbearing, working type things and by herself. So yeah, I just remember early on really having a deep sense of empathy, and that was an understanding of what somebody was going through, and to the degree where I would, what happens with empaths is they become offerers, they become fixers, they become people that just want to relieve other people's suffering because they can't endure it themselves as they feel it. So that's the first sign or signal that you have a strong empathetic quality going on, is when you just want to fix everybody and you just want to take their pain away and do whatever you can to make them feel better, because inadvertently you're going to make yourself feel better, because when you feel it, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So you already mentioned so many things, but how did did the group actually introduce themselves? Did they say, hello, we are we are Athena in Truth, or what it should actually, how can we imagine something like that?
Yeah. Well, there was, the only way I can say is that that first approach was definitely the Athena name, or the power or the energy of a woman in her power. So I've had it explained to me that everything is a part of a stream of consciousness, including the people that you find yourself interacting with in your everyday life. They are somehow aligned to you or match you. And so in that moment, calling out for confidence, I aligned to a stream of consciousness of which that consciousness was a part of. It doesn't mean it's a singular consciousness. There could be many that are part of that confidence line or stream of consciousness. But that's actually how it was explained to me. Then what happened was, as this went on, it became obvious that there were different feeling energies that were coming through. And of course, my husband and my kids would say, "Well, what's your name?" And really, even though we have a name, does that really mean that's who we are? I mean, it's just something that we title so that when we yell across the kitchen and we want to get someone's attention, we get it. It doesn't really mean that we are that person or that name. So in the beginning, there was a little bit of naming. A male energy would give a name that was maybe something that we could connect to, but now that's kind of gone out the window. That got kind of confusing after there were a number of them giving names and trying to decipher who's talking now. Then there came this uh, idea from the group that since Athena was the first one that arrived, that they would merge together as one consciousness, and they would communicate through her, and she would be the speaker, or the only one that would be doing the talking during the exchanges that we'd have. And that actually made it a whole lot easier. What I have noticed in sessions is that dependent upon the client that I'm moving with and how they feel, are they stuck in something? Are they angry? Are they not able to be accountable for the life that they're creating? That kind of depicts the tone or the dominance of the energy that comes through. So I think there is some
Mm.
times where it's alternating. There's one that's Jeremiah that nobody doesn't know who he is when he comes in, but he only comes in when someone's maybe self-righteous, or maybe they are incapable of their victimization, or they have something going on that they can't accept that they're the creator of their experience. And that's oftentimes when a more pungent or forceful energy will come in. It's kind of like I put on the jacket of the client and very much feel the essence of them or the way about them. And then that energy is dealt with by the appropriate entity coming forward to have the exchange. What really is occurring in a session is through their belief, through their perception that they can actually make a connection like this with the divine part of themselves. It gives permission, it opens their field, and it allows the group to merge together with the divinity part of them. So they leave very satisfied because they get to kind of talk to themselves on what they're holding and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. But that exchange would never occur if a person came closed or didn't believe in the process. I'm not a wizard that can command something or force something upon somebody. That is their their own free will choice. So most of the time, I never have a problem. Maybe one or two times in all the hundreds, maybe even thousands of sessions that I've done now, have I ever had a person who had a closed energy field? And when I sensed it, I just asked them if they could, let go and open themselves up to the possibility that they could actually have this exchange. And then normally it would go fine from there on in. So it's very much governed by you. And so and to follow up on that concept, if you don't believe in something, you don't have access to it. And that's just how it is. So you have to understand how your energy field is working, how your body is working. It works for you. And so if you feel like it's not possible for you to talk to your loved ones, it's not possible for you to have a connection and channel, it's not possible for you to get better if you're sick, you cannot connect in to the things that you want to without that, because that's what opens your field to it. That's what actually allows the connection to occur.
Beautiful. Is there, I have to ask it because, I always want to like wrap things up. And is there any like dimension or planet or soul group or whatever you would locate or they would like, locate themselves in?
Yeah, well, I've asked those questions. It doesn't seem to be an alley or a road that they want to go down very much. Their reason for that is they say that they would not limit themselves to any level of consciousness or any one place at one time. So I can only assume that they are multidimensional and able to travel to different levels of consciousness without really stating exactly what that is. I remember when I had my first grandchild, and I was very shocked to realize that there was another level of love that was beyond the love that I had for my own children. And I was a little ashamed to admit it. I said to my son, I hate to say this, but I think I love him a little bit more than you. And of course, we had a good laugh about it, but really it was the combination of seeing him love something and me loving him so much that he loved something that actually created that feeling. But in the divine part or aspect of us, that level, those levels of love are unlimited. We haven't known them all. We haven't experienced them all. But that's when the group jumped in and said, oh, there's so much far more. There's so much far beyond what you can even imagine as a human in form, in the way that you can love and in the way that you can expand your consciousness.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's a perfect answer because yeah, of course they're they're smart. Your sister actually mentioned to me that you're actually also channeling another entity called Shiva.
Mhm. Yeah, that entity primarily, it occasionally comes through verbally, but mostly it comes through in the automatic writing. I have two websites. I have the Athena in Truth website, and then I also have Athena Universe, where that's primarily run by the Shiva energy. There's lots of automatic downloads and writing, things like that. I could easily put out probably a number of books by what's actually gone up on those sites. So there's a paid membership on there, and then there's an Ask Athena option where people can email in a question if they don't want to book a session. They can actually get a response that way. But that it seems to me, I feel like it's better than my regular channeling. It's a really much higher level, more in-depth type of exchange that goes on between that energy. What happens when you have a Kundalini rising? Once the energy goes through all of the energy centers, the seven are activated that we know of on the body. Then there are 122 energy centers within the vessel that those independently go on to activate without you even knowing it. They're just going to work inside of you. And when that occurs, when you start to reach maybe the 50 to 60, 70 range of the inner energy centers opening, then there are more you can call them gifts or knowings or things that start to enter the field as the body starts to open up to receive more light energy. When a human becomes enlightened, a lot of people think that they're special or higher than everybody has the same potential. Everybody has energy centers. When you lighten the load of what you're carrying, more light starts to enter your field and your consciousness expands and rises because of it. And with that gives you the availability of more knowledge, more wisdom, ability to ask a question and get an answer very quickly, and to believe and perceive that, this is actually possible. And so I like to explain that to people so they kind of understand what happens with the Kundalini energy. In what I've really noticed more recently, since the energy met the crown, so it has gone through all seven of my energy centers, and then it finally reached the crown where there was an announcement. There was a Shiva announcing himself. You're finally here. It's like the female meets the male energy. When that occurred, what happened was I, as Robin, became very fluid in my speech. I became a better interviewer. a person that could talk a lot like the group can without any hesitation or trip ups like I normally would have. I have no training in public speaking or know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, nor do I have any desire to go do it. But what I'm saying is when you get that connection between the female energy connecting to the divine energy at the top, you gain access to the higher aspect of yourself, the divinity part of yourself, which gives you that flow, gives you that ability to talk about things that you know and that are connective to you. And so I have two things going on. So I have that connection to myself, which gives me the ability in an interview to have a good flowing conversation. But it also opened my consciousness up to the availability for other entities to channel through me. And that's the group that I channel. And so they come through kind of similarly, but the information is quite different than perhaps what I would get just through myself as Robin and the lives that I've lived. So that's kind of what goes on. And there are a lot of professionals that have activated their Kundalini who do not channel, but they have a great magnetism. When your Kundalini is fully activated, it causes a magnetism to you that actually draws people, a resonance that people can really connect to. And so generally you're very spreadable or busy in your life. That's what actually happens. And so people like Tony Robbins, people like Joe Dispenza, they have fully activated Kundalini. They're not necessarily touting that they're channeling, but they are channeling the divinity parts of themselves. And it's one of the reasons that they are having the success that they have in such a short amount of time because that energy is spreadable. That's what it actually is. Not all channelers have active Kundalini, but those that do generally spread pretty fast. Entities are very wanting to channel through people who have that energy because it's spreadable and they want to get their information out. That's why they're coming.
And which leads me to the question, is it actually like, do we all in the end have to have an activated Kundalini and activated like all of the centers? Is that actually something that has to happen for us to have full access to our full consciousness?
Yes, every human will at some point in the evolution of their soul activate their Kundalini, and they will only
Mm.
have to do it once. You might come from lifetime to lifetime and continue that work on your energy centers and on yourself. But the only way that you can gain access to the wisdom and knowledge of the universe is through those energy centers. It is your connection to the divinity part of yourself and to all that you are trying to receive information through. It's all coming through that connection.
Mm. Wow. And as you actually invited them in with your question on the behalf of your self-confidence, like when will it actually happen? You
Yeah.
know, I'm 60 now, and when does the self-confidence come? So what would you say after this experience? How about your self-confidence right now?
Yeah. Well, I would say that living in the energy definitely helps you experience that. But I did go through great periods, especially the first year or two with confidence, being very nervous about having an interview, feeling worried about being judged. What are people going to think of me that have known me for 60 years as, the wife of a well driller and a mother and grandmother, and now this, people would see me and think, has she lost her mind? So there was definitely, some confidence problems or some things that bothered me. And every time I went to do something new, I recently went to Sedona to do a presentation at a retreat there. And that created a storm. It created a feeling like, I don't know if I want to leave this shell that I have here, with this computer. Makes me real comfortable coming out of my house and sitting in my own environment to have to get up on a stage in front of people. And then I actually did a group activation there, and it all went very well. I went back and forth between fighting with myself. I don't have to do something I don't want to do. I'm 60, blah, blah, blah years old. There's no reason to push yourself into something. To maybe you should, maybe you need to try it to see whether, and I did discover some things about myself. I discovered that I love to work with individuals. I love working in small groups. I felt isolated when I was on the stage because my group in particular would like to get down and get close to people. That's what they like to do. And I wasn't allowed to do that because of the filming and the camera, obviously. So there were some things that, I discovered that, I really am in this for the joy of of doing it the way that feels best to me and that I feel is the most beneficial to people. And so I'm just kind of I dip my toe into a few things and I quickly decide, is that for me or not for me? And then move on from it if it isn't. But I think this time in particular, I was trying to check out, am I just afraid? Am I just not confident? And I feel like I went against myself. I don't think it was the fear. I don't think it was the lack of confidence. I think it was my knowing that I'm most effective when I'm in front of people in small groups, or if I'm having a meeting in person, that it's close, that it's something that is more intimate. It just actually fits me better.
Beautiful. But this is how we find out, right? This is always how we find out. We are always in doubt. And this is how we find out, oh, could have actually really, trusted that. Okay, next time
Yeah, yeah,
I know better.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
So, would you like to invite Athena in, and so we can have the conversation, just continuing with them?
Yeah, doesn't take us long. Yeah, we have been observing everything that has been exchanged. What is it that we could talk about today with you that would be satisfying?
Athena, actually, welcome to this podcast, and I'm very, very pleased to talk with you because it is also a desire I found in myself to be able to channel, and I am already, I know that, but even more. So it's really an honor and a pleasure to me to actually speak to you. And so maybe my first question would be, we just dive right in, okay? I would really like you to explain more from your perspective. What is divine love really?
Mhm. Uh, well, one of the reasons we chose the name that we did, Athena in Truth, is we feel that divine love is truth. Yeah, it is that resonance that one feels when they have made connection, when they feel the truth of something, and actually when you are in love with something, someone, yeah, it is the truth of the love. We think it is the love, yeah, but it is that feeling or that resonance that one obtains that actually gives you that very connective feeling of what you think love is. Yeah. There's not a human out there that doesn't want the truth, that doesn't want to, if they have been wronged or if they have something that they need to know, they are very intent on learning the truth and having it be given to them. Yeah. So this is one of the reasons, and that's really how we would depict why we chose our name and what we really think love is. It is the truth. Yeah.
So what would you say is, or is there actually a difference? Because this is always what people talk about. There is a difference between the love um, of a partnership, like the romance love, and the actual unconditional love of the divine. So, what would you say is the difference, or and how could we access that more unconditional love also to ourselves, like in self love?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, any perception or ideal that you hold that you are not loving is a separating one. Yeah. And so we would tell you that in the divinity part of you, there is no separation or individualistic love, as you would put it. But as a human feels individualistic love as they are living on the earth and they are in density, then when they get on a spiritual train or track, they start to think that they need to love everyone the same, or they are not good humans, and they are going to try to effort and muscle themselves into producing a feeling that they feel is connective, yeah, in that way. But we are more wanting to teach you to be accepting of yourselves, be loving of yourselves in whatever you are at right now, whatever you are feeling in the level of whether your love is in separation, whether you just have a husband you can love and your own children you can love, that you love that you just accept yourself, that you observe yourself in the way that you are in a little bit of separation. It's pretty difficult when you are in a dense plane, third dimensional reality, which is actually you are contained there by having access to the three lower energy centers. So You've got access to the root center, the sacral center, and the solar plexus. And these three energy centers are related to physical form. And so this is where the ego lives. This is the thing that everybody wants to get rid of. In our mind, makes no sense because you need your ego when you are in an effort state, when you are in a believing state that things don't come to you through flow, that you have to effort, you have to compete, you must have lust, there isn't enough. All of these types of beliefs or perceptions are contained in a human when they are in the three lower energy centers. And so the ego goes out and does what it's supposed to do. It watches to make sure the spouse isn't cheating. It takes care of you by competing, efforting in its experience. All these types of things are natural. And so what does a human do? As they observe themselves in the three lower energy centers, as they start to awaken just a little bit, they have some judgment. They have some condemnation. Oh, I'm doing this thing. If I was spiritual, I shouldn't be doing it. I shouldn't be jealous. I shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't do this or that. They have these thoughts or feelings that are coming through them that they are not accepting of or loving of. Yeah. And so this is natural. This is the natural evolution of one's soul. The divinity part of you, when it comes into this experience, comes at such a high vibration that it could never bring the fullness of itself into the being all at once. Yeah. So it packs it up. It folds it up, puts it at the base of the spine. It is what is known as the Kundalini energy that sits down at the bottom of the spine of a human. And then very gradually through your living, through your perceptions, through your beliefs, your energy centers start to speed up a little bit. The more that you allow more light energy into yourself by accepting, by loving yourself, this is how it happens. You start to stimulate the upper centers to start to open, to hold more light energy. And then this Kundalini energy can actually start leaking up or coming up the spine. When it starts to go into the heart center, it starts to gain access to the perception or belief that it has something to do with the creation of its experience in the way that it thinks and feels. And this is a very natural unfolding. And so you will start to observe yourself in the way that you are creating. But what comes in fourth dimensional reality is there's still some judging and condemning. There's still some noticing of where you're doing it wrong because you think you're still the human efforting in your experience. And then after you, if you would just surrender to that, love yourself in the idea that you're going to pop up and down or backslide once in a while, then you, the energy in the love of yourself, more light would get in. And then you'd start to come, make room for the energy to come up a little higher. And you start to gain access to fifth dimensional reality. And this is a reality that's being created right alongside the third dimensional reality that you find yourself in suffering. So third dimensional reality often comes with some struggle, some pain, some effort, some negativity that you don't like the feel of. The divinity part of you receives everything that you are feeling and creates a preferred reality, fifth dimensional reality. In order for you to get access to that fifth dimensional reality, you must become a match to it by rising in your energy field, by loving yourself enough that more light gets in that likens you to your source, where flow then comes. The love of self is nothing more than the acceptance and surrender of oneself in the way that they feel in their experience. I no longer judge. I no longer condemn. I no longer look at myself as unable to love everybody equal to my own family and children. I just love that I love. I just accept myself where I am. As I do this, this is self-love. This is what self-love equals, the love unconditionally of your source. And then the flow starts to reach you. And then ability, that loving ability that the source has, permeates your field and starts to dissipate the energy that's preventative of you expanding to the great love that you want to. The human doesn't do anything other than feel its experience. Most people think that they are bringing experiences to them, that they have to go out and do things, make things happen. But that's not really how it works. The human gets to feel its experience, and by all that is felt, the divine is the one that is in the connective universe that then matches situations and people to you, that it would just flow right to you, provided you loved yourself in the way that you created it. Sometimes you're going to do it in suffering. When you start to recognize by observing yourself how you feel in your experience, you start to gain access to more light energy. And then your consciousness starts to rise. And in a rise of consciousness, there are different choices that one makes in the way that they think and feel. It's not that the human has become a better human. It's not that it's efforted itself. It's that it has released itself to its divine counterpart and allowed it to lift it to a higher level of consciousness where it could flow the desired behavior and results to it, you see.
That makes sense. Beautiful. Thank you so much. The next question that popped up was, what is God to you?
Uh, Robin's laughing a little bit in the background. She can do that once in a while. Some people like the word of God, some don't like the word. She would say she's so-so on the word of God. Yeah. But what we would like to tell you is that in our depiction, the all that is, or what you call God, is a culmination of energy that is ever expanding, ever growing, infinite potential. Through experience. Yeah. We don't really know how we could depict that in words to you, but it is a consciousness that is aware of itself in every aspect of itself. So if you could imagine every rock, every tree, every being on this plane and any other has an awareness of itself, that is consciousness, and that is what we call God.
Yeah, that that satisfies one level of my consciousness.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
to go a little bit further, Robin had what she would call an out-of-body experience once. She was asking the question to herself, will I know who I am when I die? Will I still exist as Robin, or will that part just have never been? And she kept posing that question over and over again. And all of a sudden, there was a great sensation. And she realized she was looking down at herself laying on her bed. There was a moment of feeling of trying to make the body move or be Robin. Yeah. And none of that was happening. And then there was a little bit of a snarky voice that said, well, do you know who you are? Yeah, she did. She felt the same way that she did when she was in the body, but she did not have control over it. There were no aches and pains. There were no emotive values or exchanges that were going on that might be going on when she was in the body. But yet the essence or the knowingness of who she was, and as she expressed as Robin, was fully available to her.
yeah, wow. The I am feeling is staying the same. Could you
Yeah,
say
you
that?
are in a connective experience. There is
Yeah.
no leaving here and going there. Yeah, there is a constant interaction or connection between the divinity part of you and the human aspect of you. All of the emotions that you are feeling are between you and you. They have not a single thing to do with anything going on in your life or any person. They are an indication that you are either moving closer to the universe that you yourself have created by how you have felt, or you are moving away from it. So as you think something negative, perhaps outside of yourself, that person cut me off, I don't like them. Yeah, you would get a very thick negative feeling. And maybe it would be rage, maybe it would be anger, but it would not be a feeling that would be connective or one that you like the feel of. That would be the divine part of you saying, hey, the thought you're choosing right now is distancing me in what I have created together with you that I want to flow to you. So you would get a pinch, you would get a negative emotion that would come to you. The problem with a human is they think that there's something outside of themselves that is the cause for how they feel. And that just isn't true. Everything that you are feeling is coming from inside yourself. It's already in there from past lives, the present life, lineage. It's all part of your experience coming in through those energy centers. And it's what's making you respond to the life experience that you're in. And so there is no cause. There's just a mirrored result representing the cause. And it stimulates you to know you have a cause because the divine is saying, hey, I got something for you. I can't flow it to you as you stay in that low tone that you think is the cause of how you feel. Just let go. It's not that you can't feel that way. It's not that I won't receive you that way. I will. I will still receive you in the way that you feel, and I'll have no judgment or condemnation. And I'll continue to grow a universe for you that is opposite of the negativity you are holding. That'll still happen. But the human gets permission to let go by connecting to the flow part of itself, by recognizing what's actually going on, by having some kind of awareness about how they create. If you're going to stumble around in your experience and think that that person is causing me this, that person cheated on me and therefore betrayed me and made me feel the way that I do, then you're going to have more and more experiences of betrayal until you finally recognize that you are holding a wound that you are condemning and judging and not liking in yourself that's actually creating more and more mirrored results in your experience.
Yes, because the truth never hurts.
Yeah.
Could you say
Well,
that?
in the initial stages, you will have lots of repeat experiences and lots of emotion that is similar. But if you ignore that long enough, that energy center will slow down to the degree where there's not enough health and wellness or energy coming in to support that. And then the condition comes. Yeah. Now you have something in the form of an affliction that you say came out of the blue. But actually, there were many, many layers of emotion that were contained over a large length of time that accumulated in that energy center and denied energy to it. And therefore the universe creates within itself and the human aspect, let's get another signal. The feelings and the thoughts don't seem to be enough to get this one's attention. Let's bring a condition that makes them feel the same way and see if that in fact ignites some recognition of how they are creating in their experience.
Yeah, how is the saying? The universe sends you first a feather, and if you're not responding, it sends you a brick. And if you're not responding, then it sends you a bus.
And rather than saying it sends you, you send you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Beautiful. There's always a lot of talk about embodiment, like embodying more of what you really are, the goddess, the god you are, the divine being. Would you say embodiment is what you reach through looking and being aware of your feelings and connecting with your divine counterpart?
Yeah, in the observation of oneself, in the way that they think and feel, is inviting the divinity aspect of you to flow through you. That's what you're actually doing. Yeah. In unconsciousness, you are not connected to the divine part of yourself and you are suffering in a low tone. That's what's actually happening. You're creating unconsciously. You're jealous, you're angry, you're enraged, whatever it is. And it's having a result that is going to be returned back to you. Now you are angry, you're jealous, you're upset, you observe it. Now you're awake to it. You're not just thinking that person is to blame. This is really happening and I'm suffering in it. That's not what you're thinking when you are observing. When you're observing, you are looking at the human in appreciation, in gratitude, in love, in letting it know that you have received it in its preferred state of being. That's the difference between unconscious and conscious creating. As you start to observe yourself, this is such a simple concept if people could get this, because the observation part of you is the divinity part of you. It's that thing that you think is going to fly through the window or get your attention in some dramatic way. But you are always being felt. You are always in connection with that divine part. Every single human is. And when you start to open up and believe and recognize this, you grant access to it. And so, in answer to your question, enlightenment is more light getting into the field, and you're the one that allows it. I just decide not to judge myself, not to condemn myself. I decide not to become the signal that I am choosing to feel to let the divine know what my preferred reality is. And so I no longer do that anymore. I recognize as a human that I am a signal sender, that I am here as an experiential tool for the divine part of me to use to create a preferred reality, both for me and for the world as a whole, culminated together as a mass. And so I understand how this works now. And so I surrender to that. I just let go of this attachment that I have, that I am this awful person, this controlling person, this angry person. Oftentimes, when we mirror back an emotion to someone, they don't like themselves in it. Well, there's a good cause for it. Something happened in the experience, and you're signaling divine, I don't like that. I don't want that again. And the divine says, well, let me take care of it for you. And then you sit there sending it over and over again. And the universe says, well, okay, let's just keep sending you more situations till you let go of that and become a match to me in the love of yourself, in how you felt it, and I will flow the experience to you. It's created instantaneously. It exists the moment that you have a desire for it.
I love what you said about the observation part of us is actually divine, the divine part of us. Because this is my experience always. It's so simple, it's so easy and simple that the mind is not getting it. How simple and how easy it actually is. And it is actually a part of you that you never missed and that you know very well,
Mhm.
indeed.
Then you are to surrender to even that. Oh, my mind can't accept this. Yeah. It thinks as though this couldn't possibly be true. It can't believe that this could be this simple. Yeah. And so you acknowledge it. That too is the human aspect of you sending out a signal in not trust, in not belief. And then you are to say, I've received you in that. It's okay. Yeah. I'm not in any way ever trying to coerce or muscle the human out of what it is signaling in the way that it feels. I simply keep aligning to it.
So, what would you say? How do we dissolve blockages that we have in beliefs and obviously then in feelings? So, that the divine flow can be restored and flow through you.
A human isn't doing it. Yeah. There's a divinity aspect of you that's being invited in through observation that's going to go in and dissipate energy. That's what's actually going to happen. So you as a human wondering, how am I going to effort this in? How am I going to police myself, watch myself, forgive myself, stop condemning myself? You're actually creating more resistance in the field as you think that you can do that. Once you just start to surrender, that's why the terminology surrender is brought up so much in spirituality, that you just allow. You just let go. You just allow whatever is kicking out in the way that you feel. And then you continue to bring in the divinity part of you to observe you in what has been felt. And you will very quickly start to notice the energy dissipate. Robin has this happen at night when she can't go to sleep. Yeah. Her husband snores. And in the beginning, she thought he's the cause. Because when he snores, I get really frustrated. And then when I get frustrated, I start to get irritated. And then when I get irritated, I start to get angry. And when I get angry, then I start to worry. What am I going to do? I've got sessions tomorrow. I've got things coming up, and he won't quit snoring, and I can't go to sleep. Blame, 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 outside cause. Well, there is a cause, isn't there? Most people would think he is the cause. But then all of a sudden, she started worrying about her son, because that's what happens when she doesn't go to sleep within 20 minutes. Then the worrying starts coming. And so she finally said, what in the hell is going on here? And we said to her, just observe yourself. You're in worrying, aren't you? Yeah. You eventually got to the place where she knows she's a worrier. That's something that she does as a human and as a mother. Yeah. And the minute she started to observe herself in her worry, she felt all of the situations and circumstances that she was worrying about just fall. They just dissipated. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, her frustration, her irritation with her husband for snoring, it just dissipated, just went away. And she said, I've never laid in bed for an hour in complete peace in not being able to sleep. I wasn't irritated. I wasn't frustrated. I wasn't going to worry. I was just in my being, and I was content there. Yeah. And so this is what we want you to understand, is that through the observation of yourself, the emotion will dissipate itself. You don't have to effort it out. You just have to notice. You just have to recognize I'm blaming something outside of myself for the way that feel, and it's going to seem real. It's really, he is snoring. He is. Yeah. And her son does have a few things that she worries about. He does. Yeah. But guess what? When she recognized the emotion that she felt as she was experiencing those things, they just fell out of her experience and she went to sleep.
That is profound. And it is my own experience always when I'm just watching those feelings, they dissipate.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
Well, think about it, even scientifically. Uh, those negativities or fears or worries that you have, those are unconscious states, but they're still creative. They're creating in your experience. Once something that is unconscious is known consciously, it no longer exists in its creative state unconsciously. It's been moved to consciousness, and consciousness is the divinity part of you that dissolves that energy.
Yes, move it to consciousness. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes. So, as you are speaking a lot about the Kundalini awakening or the awakening of the energy centers, would you like to maybe quickly walk us through the process so that the viewers can have an overall understanding about what we are actually talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we can guide people in the direction that Robin used and that others have used, but we want to make it abundantly clear that you are to follow the thing that you are presently drawn to, that resonates with you. You are the most powerful part of the creation in anything in your own experience. So adopting what someone else did, it might work for you, yeah. But if you feel as though there's something you could add or something that you are drawn to individually, we would highly recommend that you pursue that avenue, that you don't just take her word or our word, but we will give you a practice that she actually used that worked for her and has worked for many. And that is to learn to feel and to really understand your energetic field. Yeah. The way that you can do that is first and foremost, you recognize you are a light being. You are a conductor of light. That's what you're doing. Based upon the amount of light that you allow into yourself, gives you access to levels of consciousness that you can explore as more and more light enters your field. That's what you are. Yeah. So when someone tells you that you are a conductor of light, well, then let's step up to the plate and start conducting light. Yeah. Let's actually start to believe and to perceive that I have the ability to bring more light into my field. So now I want to imagine that I open the crown, the top of my head, of which there is a large light source above of me. And I imagine drawing with my will and my intent. I pull that light source down into my top of my head. And as I do it, I command the chakra to open. And as I say open, I see that center open. I visually imagine those petals dropping open to me and loading that center full of that divine light source energy. Once the center becomes full of light, its natural recourse is to spin. It starts rotating in a clockwise motion. And the more light that enters it, the faster it will spin. And the faster it spins, the more light it draws into itself. Then I would go through each one of the energy centers doing the same thing with the breath. I would imagine each energy center commanding it to open to me, bringing that light source energy into it, causing it to create a large or fast spin. And I would continue this through the entire field, through each of the 7 energy centers until I reach the base. Then I would imagine rooting into the earth because I now know that I'm in a connective experience. So I am grounding or connecting that high light source energy right into the earth of which I am experiencing on presently. And so I imagine that my feet are like tree roots that then root into the core or the center of the earth. And as I hit the core of the earth with those tree roots, I think, wow, there's some great power in the earth that I can also use to be connective in my experience. So I draw upon that with my will, with my intent, because I am a conductor of energy. And I draw that light source energy up from the earth and I do the same thing. I bring it through each one of the energy centers, expanding them, opening them, causing rapid spin to them. And I go up each energy center the same way. This is a practice that Robin did before bed each night. It only takes 5 to 7 minutes to do it practice 3 times. She would go up and down her energy field. What she quickly realized in a week or two of doing this is that some of the energy centers began to throb. There was a heavy pulse, and she began recognizing that this is where she contained energy, where she actually had a lot of negativity that was denying flow or building up. It would be the same thing if you hung a finger upside down. You would not be able to get any more fluid into that finger because it would contain infection or something would be deposited in there. Your energy centers are the same way, so that you're going to become very noticeable of where you're containing energy after you do this practice nightly for a number of weeks. It will start to build in your field, and eventually that throbbing sensation will alert you to it's like a clog, something blocking energy. Then she would move to individual focus on those energy centers that she knew was having a problem, continue on that for a number of nights, and then go back to the full practice. In her experience, 2.5 months after doing this, she had the full Kundalini awakening, which brought the Kundalini from the base of the spine all the way up. She mentioned the veering off. She still had a clog in her heart center. Yeah, so that was not capable to penetrate that center. It actually veered off to the side and then came down through the top of her head about a year and a half, 2 years later, when it really evened out her experience after that. So this is the practice that we would recommend. And we feel that it is a good practice for one to recognize what's held in their field. What do I have that is blocking or denying the light source energy from entering me? You're never being denied because you're not worthy or you've done something wrong or you're not good enough. None of that is true. The divinity part, the God source part of you and the high emanation that it comes from has no judgment, no condemnation whatsoever of any human. It would be you that would actually be doing that to yourself. You would have some type of a condemning or judging feeling about yourself in the way that you had felt your experience that would deny you being a match to unconditional love. But the source part of you is always there, always ready, available, and always wanting to flow to you the experience it has created for you by all that you have felt.
Wow, thank you so much. Just a little question. When you were getting to the part of the throbbing, of the throbbing of the specific energy center, you were just continuing to doing the same. You're just
Yeah,
describing, just like
but
letting the
over and
light
over
in.
again on the same center, then I would
Right.
focus. Yeah. Mhm.
Beautiful.
Oftentimes, what will happen in that is recall. You will get some recall of what is actually lodged in there. Maybe some experiences come up. Not to be too attached to those. It is not significant or important that you know what the cause is or what you think the cause was, because there is no cause. There's just a response that you're having to something that you prefer not to be happening. So don't get too wound up in something happening and being valuable. This is why we don't give really a hoot in hell about past lives, because most of the people that want to know about their past lives, they are either presently unhappy in the life that they're in and they think that they have some grandeur in a past life that will make them feel better, or they think there's a cause. There it is again, something outside of themselves that happened in a past life that's causing them to feel a certain way. None of that matters. You're picking and choosing based upon an emotion that's in you. All you need to do is recognize it in order to release it. You don't need to pin it to a past life or a cause. It's just not necessary.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. And is there, like, would you say this is the actual essence of what we call forgiveness?
Uh, well, when we've been asked about forgiveness, we don't see a need for it because everything in your experience is brought to you by your own doing or your own creation. So the idea that someone has done something to you really doesn't resonate very well with us. Yeah. So you are matching someone in the way that you feel, and it's brought an experience to you because of it, period. That's what's actually gone on. We don't mean to feel to become cold-hearted or to seem as though we do not care. But the only requirement of forgiveness would be that which you hold towards yourself in the way that you have felt. The idea that something outside of yourself has wronged you, that something you have to apologize in something in order to be forgiven for it, would be a fallacy, wouldn't it? The divine is never going to bring something to you that you don't want. It's readily available with everything you do want. It would be the human aspect of you creating unconsciously separated from its source. That would be what would be happening. So there would be that going on, yeah. But the divinity part of you isn't bringing suffering to you as a lesson. You're bringing it to yourself by a containment of emotion. The divine perspective is replicating what you're holding. That's all it's doing. Yeah. So if you are holding jealousy, then you are going to get experiences that represent those that are going to make you jealous. Yeah. So what is the divine message? The divine message is I have something that I have created opposite of that that I would like to flow to you. Yeah. But I have to continue to give you what you are holding until you let go of it.
Yes,
We just
exactly.
want to be clear. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, beautifully explained. Thank you. I would like to move a little bit to the global things that are actually occurring. My viewers are probably more like German or European. Is there any advice you would give people living in this area, like seeing the wars going on? Do you have any advice for people living in Europe and even of maybe of their specific role over there in Europe?
Yeah, yeah. So what you have to understand is that in this rise in consciousness, new thoughts and feelings and perceptions will come to you that normally in a lower level of consciousness you would not have. Yeah. And so the more that people do this observation of themselves and the more light energy that they allow into themselves will create a lift in their consciousness. And so then what is going on in the world will not draw the same feelings or conclusions or negativity that maybe they had been experiencing in fear before. So it isn't that a human has to effort or to change themselves. It's that they have to enlighten or allow more light to come into themselves and rise up in their consciousness and then become connected to a level of consciousness of which fear, of which war, of which all of these types of emotions that a lot of people are experiencing are no longer a part of. That's what a shift in consciousness is. So people get confused when they think that there's going to be a great change, and they'll think, well, how's it going to happen? All these bad things are happening. It's because enough are going to lift in their consciousness, in the observation of themselves, in the creators that they are, that they will draw new conclusions and perceptions, and therefore will not be affected as greatly by what's going on in the world as maybe they once were, or that they were in third density. So what we tell people is when we hear a lot of negative news or reports of war or the things that could be happening in the upcoming years that people are worried about, is they're not taking into account the natural rise in consciousness because they're thinking that people are going to be perceiving all of these changes that might come in the old way of being, in the third dimensional way of being. But when you rise in consciousness, the way that you react to things and the way that you experience things is quite different. And that's the element that's being left out of a lot of the broadcasts that are coming in that are fear-based. They're not realizing that there is a power-based population that is expanding their consciousness. And then as they start to project that out into the world, that vibration, this is what actually will start a shift or a change in what you are visually seeing in your world. So we're not necessarily in agreement with a lot of negativity as far as what's coming or even in what's happening in this moment, because we are able to perceive what people really prefer. It's kind of like your presidential election in the United States. We did a recording on our YouTube. If people are interested, they can go look on it. But basically what happened, people were voting about hate rather than about love, what they really preferred to see in the world and in a candidate. They were voting against something that they didn't want to see. And therefore, it was like stepping on a board and getting hit in the face with it. So it dimmed their light or lowered their connecting point. So they did not get the result that they wanted. So we just want people to understand that it is a connection of love, a connection of unconditional love that reveals a higher consciousness that is already created. That's an aspect that's not being talked about, that everything that is being felt that people don't like the feel of has actually created another reality that's fully formed. And it can't come in until it matches the vibratory tone that those that created it in suffering, in fear, in worry, in angst, in war sometimes, but they can't make a connecting point to that. Now, all of the solar flashes that are occurring, all of the changes that are going on in the planet, all of the broadcasts such as yours and others that are starting to expand in the plane are expanding consciousness. Consciousness is wisdom and knowledge, awareness, awakeness. That's what consciousness is. And so as more and more of that type of communication becomes available, humans' consciousness is starting to expand with the earth consciousness also expanding. So the vibration of the earth is picking up and humans. And so as the humans are living on the earth, the stimulation from her energy centers, because she has them too, is stimulating their energy centers. And it's going to start to kick out all the lower tone emotions that are held, allowing more light into the humans. So some of this is going to happen very naturally. It's going to be a very natural unfolding that's going to occur. So our prognosis of what's coming in the future is a good one. But it is not to say that there won't be some bumps, that there won't be some unraveling that will occur with those that are still in the lower level of consciousness. We don't mean that in a negative tone at all. We just mean that they don't have availability to them about how they create, and they maybe have not had access to the wisdom and knowledge of how to transmute negativity within themselves. But some of it's going to happen naturally just by the stimulation of the earth. So you're going to see a lot more Kundalini awakenings. You're going to see a lot more people channeling. You're going to see a lot more telepathy on your plane, people communicating without saying a word. These are the kind of things that are going to become very natural on your plane in the upcoming years.
Wow, I so love that. It is all about really focusing on what we love instead of what we don't want to have. And that will be the change. That really the change in ourselves will be the change that we then see outside, right? Oh,
Absolutely.
beautiful.
It already exists there.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, is there anything that you would like to finally say to the viewers and leave a message for the final wrap up of
Yeah.
our conversation?
Our final message would be there's a perfect plan in place, a perfect situation that a human is not needing to police itself. It's not needing to change itself. It's not needing to effort in its experience. Everything is available to you through flow. Nothing has gone wrong. You've done nothing wrong. The only thing is there's been some dogma added to metaphysics the same way that it was added to religion, that somehow you have to be perfect. Somehow you have to stop sending out any negative signal at all in order to be a worthy human. That's just not true. The divine part of you doesn't look at emotions as right and wrong, good and bad, positive and negative. That's not how it looks at it. It looks at it as a source of energy of which it can feel you in your experience and create an optimal one for you. And so once you really understand that the universe is in a love tone, in a high vibration of love, and you are in a dense form right now with a lot of negativity that is available to you that is now starting to fold over or transcend the three lower energy centers through your desire not to suffer in all the suffering that you have sent, is actually creating the opportunity to rise in consciousness and become connected to this fifth dimensional reality. Some of you are going to start seeing different things pop into your experience that you never thought possible. And that's a timeline that exists. It's been created out in front of you by all that you have lived. And by the minute that you perceive it, the minute that you start to believe in it, you're going to suck that reality right into your present one. And the world as a whole, the more people that do that, the quicker that paradigm is going to shift, even in your mass. That's what's going to occur.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm so excited about exactly that. And thank you very much, Athena in Truth, for your opening up and sharing your message with us. And I hope maybe sometime we will meet again.
Likewise. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you.
Hey.
Wow. Hello. So is it true that you don't really recognize or know what Athena was actually saying?
No, no, I just, the consciousness steps aside and I remember very little of it. By the time I walk back into the house, I'll be pretty clean of remembering anything that we exchanged. And in the past, sometimes I'd be curious, so I'd play the things back, but I don't really do that anymore. And I do find that the teachings are implementing into me just by doing the work, and what I've really found is this just much more loving, accepting kindness towards myself and not being perfect. And some people will say, "Oh, now that you're doing that, are you in this elevated state?" Not really, no. But I'm in this state of knowing. I'm in this state of understanding that it's never going to be like that. There's no, you're here as a preference seeker. I don't care who you are. You can try to talk yourself into thinking that you're going to stop feeling, but you're never going to be successful at that. That's just the way that it is being a human. And so the thing I've gotten better at is just letting go of what I feel and not attaching to it.
That is actually what I wanted to talk about with you as well, because I laughed so much when I listened to some interviews of you that you actually really emphasize that you don't have to be perfect. In my experiences, I really have seen that I don't need to be perfect. And still there is this, oh my God, but I seem to know what is perfect about me and whatever. So there is that part of me that is always trying to get to that point, right? So
Yeah. That's the actual thing that kind of clogs up the point because the human, remember, this is the biggest key to me, is when I start thinking that there's something I need to do, I've moved into unconscious creating. I'm actually creating resistance in my field because the changes that one wants to see in themselves comes through flow. It doesn't come from you recognizing something or changing something that you thought wasn't good. It just comes in very naturally, just in the surrender of what was felt. It doesn't, there is no work to do. There's no efforting at all. And you know what I really love about the group that I channel is that whole idea, and I think that's one of the reasons they really don't have a lot of negative to say. How does that benefit a human? Even to tell them of disaster or to tell them of something, what are you going to do about it other than fret and ruin your life and feel miserable as you do it? You're not, I guess the biggest key is to move to observe yourself and allow yourself to rise in consciousness, and then in that state, whatever comes doesn't doesn't hold the same effect on you. You just aren't afraid. You just don't have those types of feelings anymore. You know it's going to be okay. You know you're going to be okay. Humans are resilient. We've gone through so many things throughout time and navigated them and come through them, and this will be no different.
Exactly. And yeah, it's kind of really to be in the fullness of the moment and experience. This is actually, I think this is actually love, right? To be in the fullness of the moment is love. And just really live whatever it is, even if it's not that pleasant, maybe in the moment.
Because where are you when you're listening to a prediction? You're out
Yes.
in the future somewhere. You're not in your present creative moment where you have influence over the future. You've gone somewhere where disaster actually exists. That's what you've done. So it makes no sense to me at all to use your consciousness in that way. Go out and enjoy every single way that you can and love your life and other people in their lives. And you won't be able to help but have a lovely existence.
Yes, exactly. So I also heard you talking about an experience you recently had about telepathy.
Yes.
And I was really fascinated about it because I always thought this is how telepathy is actually working. Maybe you want to talk about it.
Yeah, well, when I used to ponder what it would be like for everyone to have telepathy, I might be having a negative thought about somebody, and I think, oh my God, they're going to hear something going through my mind that I don't want them to hear, and I would be worried about it. And when I actually experienced it, and I have a number of times with my children or my husband, and generally I have to ask or have some input that I would like to have that occur. Sometimes it just comes through when I'm not expecting it. But what I realized that the level that telepathy is at, when others have it too, they don't move to anger. They don't move to judgment. They don't move to jealousy or to any type of negativity. The level that telepathy exists at is total understanding, total peace, the ability to receive someone in their truth and not be offended by it. And it goes both ways. It's just this automatic exchange of information and allowing and surrendering to what each has felt. And that was the lovely thing that I felt about it. I thought that I would feel, violated if it was something I shouldn't hear or I might have a feeling, but what comes with it is an understanding of what it's like to be human, a knowingness that I too have felt everything that someone else has felt, whether I want to admit it or not. And so the judgment just goes right out of the window. You just don't have that. And it was really a lovely experience, I have to say, one that I'm looking forward to when others have it now, because there's no really authentic exchanges with people when you're holding one thing and pretending another. There's no benefit to you or to them in that exchange. And so it's really going to be a magnificent thing when that sense opens in a lot of people. And I've been told that a lot of the new souls that are coming in and the young ones that are here, they already have it. This is something that they're going to come in with. So some of us are going to open to it in our older age, and others are just going to have it. It's just going to be automatic.
Yeah, actually remember I have a twin brother, and I remember as a kid that we were telepathic in a way.
Mhm.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, did you actually have the feeling that the other person you were telepathic with um also knows that you know what they are thinking?
Well, at this stage, I didn't really verbalize it, but it was more, I think the reason telepathy came from me is more a confirming moment. So maybe I'm wondering something and I'm not quite sure about it. And then all of a sudden, I get the voice or the communication of exactly word for word thoughts that confirm maybe what I was thinking and feeling that I wasn't really trusting. And so I'm noticing it more and more with clients. So they might say, this is what they're feeling. They have this, and this. Ask them about their mother or their father. So they might bring up something like that would be like a telepathic communication that would come through during a session. In the beginning, I wouldn't act on it because I thought I'm not going to ask them if they have a problem with their mother. What if they don't? That would be, so you're in that feeling of, I don't know if I can trust that or not. So what they did is it popped into my personal experience. And so I started to get confirmation in exchanges that I was having. So now I'm able to kind of bring that with me into my sessions, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with that communication coming through and then being able to act on it, where before I would kind of stifle that a little bit or not trust to allow myself to go down that road.
Yeah, that actually cancels out the question if one could actually misuse telepathy, right? Because there is no judgment, there's
Yeah, you
no,
don't have that. Yeah, you have
yes,
no mean to harm, no mean to judge, no condemning, nothing held against, a knowingness of not to repeat it or use it in any way. None of that comes with it. It's just
yes,
not available to you.
mm,
And that now I really understand what they say about the new world that's coming is you're the same person, but none of the old shit comes with you. It's like none of the old choices are there. They're just gone.
yeah,
It's like a miracle.
it is. It's a freaking miracle, and I'm really
Yes.
excited about
It's
it.
it'd be a good thing, I think. I didn't really understand it until it happened, but and I think it's even in leadership, a lot of people wonder how are we going to get better governments? This is what's going to happen. It's going to uh, the consciousness is going to rise, and it's going to bring in new people. It's going to bring in new ways of being. It takes some time. Yeah, there's some crap you have to go through, but you know there becomes this knowingness in you, this feeling of it's going to be okay. I know what's happening here. I can navigate this. I can get through this. Everybody's going to be okay. So there's that comes with it, that your consciousness is going right along with that new dimension that's coming in. You're not staying in density. You're actually moving where you have much more hopeful, much more believe in trust and all of these emotions available to you at the higher levels of consciousness.
Yes. And my personal impression of all that, what is right now happening is this is kind of an in between, you know, whatever it is, it's an in between and it is necessary.
Absolutely.
It's a necessary. So whoever is elected and whatever, it's a necessary so to get some things done and then something new will come.
In the candidate that got in or the one that didn't get in, everyone was preferring a better world, no matter who
Right.
they voted for. Everyone had a reason. They had something in themselves that they thought would be better by the choice they were making. And that's the thing we need to cling to, not to the hate, not to the judgment or the condemning of people in their choice, but to know that they come from love. They want to feel better. They want a better world. And they made the choice that they themselves, in their free will, sovereignty that they have, to what they felt would make it better. And us hating them in that choice is not going to make it better.
Yes, it is all a call for love. And this is the common thing about all of us. And
Yeah.
this is the
And
connecting
nobody's
thing.
lost. So all of that's been
Yes.
received. No one really lost. They just have to get in a connective state with whatever happened, and they will cause this new reality to actually enter the plane. That's what will
Yeah.
actually happen.
You mentioned somewhere along this, you mentioned also the word authentic or authenticity. What would you say is authenticity for you?
For me personally,
Yes.
Um, I guess just really letting people know that I'm not perfect. I
Yes.
try to be as authentic about that as I can, that I still have some stinky feelings now and then but I know I'm observing myself and I'm becoming more and more aware that there is a dual experience going on here. And I'm becoming in that awareness more likened to the source part of myself in accepting and surrendering to the way that I feel. And I find myself feeling that way less and less without effort. The changes that you want to see in yourself, they'll come, but they're not going to come by you thinking you're the one that's doing it, by you efforting. They come in surrender. They come in acceptance, in love of the way that you felt your experience. That's what I'm noticing. And just my authentic state now is I'm doing this. I could in the beginning I was very fearful of people thinking I was crazy, of not wanting to be around me or of it affecting someone else in my family. Fortunately, both of my boys could care less and are very spiritually open. My husband's same. He's totally fine. I have my sister Heidi that I work with, and so I have a really good nucleus around me that's very accepting of what I do. And but that again came through flow. One day it just wasn't there. The fears that I had in the beginning just kind of evaporated. They went away. And I didn't really do anything. I kept wondering how that was going to happen. And it was the same type of thing like becoming a woman. I've talked about that. You don't turn into a woman overnight. There's a natural change that happens. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, I'm a woman now. I'm not a little girl. That's kind of how flow is. It just this very natural unfolding. And one day you notice that, wow, something's really happened here. I'm really different than what I used to be. But I didn't do anything to make it happen. I just allowed it to happen.
That's a good explanation, actually. Like yeah, you see it after it happened, more or less. Yes,
And I
that's
think puberty is a great example of that, you know. We don't really pay attention when it's going on. And, we just start, all of a sudden little things in the body happen and there's changes. Uh, and I can't even remember the moment. Maybe you can't either, when all of a sudden I was not a child, I was a different person. And that's how the unfolding of your spirituality is too. Same way, comes through flow.
and I don't know how about you, but I still like the child is all in there as well. And the topic of the dark night of the soul. Somewhere in all, one of your interviews, you said something like doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
dark night of the soul. What would you like to explain? Because that was always my feeling. It was like even that might be a choice on some level.
Yeah, it is a choice. I didn't realize it at the time. The dark night of the soul is an ignorance to what Kundalini energy is actually doing. It's going to show you everything in yourself that's separating. That's what it does. And so a lot of people start seeing things that are separated in their jealousy, in their anger, in their rage, in things that they don't love in themselves, and they move to condemning and judging. And when you move into condemning and judging, the universe says, okay, let's mirror that to her. Let's show her everything that she can judge and condemn about herself. And you get a barrage of experiences that represent what you're holding. And so eventually it's like it beats you down to the point where one day you just surrender and you just say, you know what? I'm so sick and tired of looking at everything that I hate in myself and condemning and judging. And there's a letting go. You kind of let go and realize. But I now have realized that we can make that decision early on. We can immediately move to appreciation and gratitude of what we deem as something negative in ourselves and move it right out of our field. It just goes. And then continue to move through that process the same way. Every time you see something that's brought to you that you don't like the feel of or the look of in yourself, you just immediately move to loving yourself for showing it to you. Now I'm in a state of appreciation and gratitude. What can the universe mirror to me in that? It can't keep you in suffering very long. It starts bringing you things that you want to see, changes that you want to see. All of a sudden you think, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm so grateful. I love myself right now. But the universe does that for you. It does it in your surrender.
Yeah, exactly. And it reminds me of something you said along the lines like the human is not the creator, the divine is the creator, and the human is the feeler or something like that.
Yes. The human is the feeler of its experience, and it's allowed
Yes.
to feel anything. And as far as the divine is concerned, there's no judgment, no condemnation of any feeling. But the human doesn't see it that way sometimes, and then gets stuck or lodged in that perception or belief unconsciously that it is this thing. And then the universe has to signal with negative mirrors to get you to let go of that thing so that it can give you the nice thing that it would like to.
So wow, I think I oh my God, it's so beautiful because I mean it's not that new, right? This message is not that new, but it's so wonderful to have it reflected through another mirror like you to really get the message out. It is really easy. It's simple.
just just touching on what you talked about. So by you being open, you open up to a channel that I have open. So the divinity part of you is accessed or connected into the experience that we're having. And so the resonance, so why is it different when you hear something from another spiritual teacher? It's your own resonance. It's it's your divinity partner communicating through the opening that I'm using, but it is you meeting you that creates a resonance that makes you more connective to the material or the teaching. Let's
Mhm.
use that understanding. And that's really what happens in any spiritual teaching or like certain books that you read. Is it somehow opens the channel to the connection of the divinity part of you and creates a resonance. And then that's what allows that information to transfer. That's what allows that knowingness to actually come in. It's coming in through a higher source to you, through you. It's not that you as a human are now understanding something. It's you as a divinity being have been merged together with your human, and it's giving you that understanding. If you would perceive it that way.
Yeah, it resonates a lot with me. Thank you. So, Robin, it's like, wow, we that was a very fluent interview. To wrap that up, is there anything that you, Robin, would like to say for our viewers or yes, in general?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to a bright future. I don't feel any negativity about what might transpire in between now and the next 3 years. Yeah, there might be changes that are coming, but I think we're all perfectly capable of navigating whatever it is that we have to go through. That's just the outlook that I'm carrying. That doesn't necessarily increase followers. For some reason, there's a lot of people that really gravitate towards negativity or some kind of fear-based things. And it's the same thing in the news. It's just the way that it is. I would love to see it go the other way. I don't know if that's going to happen. I hope eventually it does. I'm going to keep saying what my group keeps telling me, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel connective. And so I feel like that's the direction or the perspective that I'm going to hold.
Yes, and it's mine too. And this is maybe because we gravitated to each other.
Look at the things people go through, the loss of jobs, the divorces, the losses of their own children, and it's to look at all those experiences as the next place and the next thing, and I'm not saying that they aren't difficult at the time, but almost everyone that goes through great suffering will tell you that they've become more because of it. That they have definitely become stronger, enriched, and more able to serve because of it. So that's the perspective that we need to hold in the coming days and weeks and months and years that are coming, is that this is necessary and we're going to be fine.
I can confirm that, and I'm with you totally. Thank you so much, Robin. It was such a pleasure to talk to you and to Athena in Truth. Thank you both, and I hope for our viewers there are a lot of nuggets for you to ponder on. And if you just listen to that and listen to where is the resonance in you and follow that program, I think your life is going to show this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much as well.